Welcome back to the Easygoing Empire. And I'm Morgan Batiste, your host. I'm so excited to have Hannah Plourde here with us today. We've been like friends and following each other for a while on social media, and I'm obsessed with her content. So I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself and tell a little bit of her backstory. And then we're going to dive in. And this is going to be a really great episode. If you have any type of online business, if you're an influencer, if you're a coach, we're going to cover content and also creating your own offer so that you can expand what you're making right now. So, Hannah, I'm going to give it
Yeah.
off to you.
Thank you so much, Morgan. I'm so happy to be here. So, I've been in the marketing space for about 7 years, and it all started when I started a side hustle to maybe get some extra income. It was like totally relaxed. And I was a teacher. And I was like, what if I take my educational resources, my art resources that I use for my students, and just digitalize them, put them online for homeschool families? And I built a little brand, Wild and Growing. It's still active, by the way. I do literally nothing for it. But I realized I had to do more marketing than just put it on Etsy and put it on Teachers Pay Teachers. So I studied my brain off. I learned Pinterest, and I was able to get my account up to 500,000 monthly viewers, which blew my mind. And at that point, I had other people in the online space, other people selling their other teachers mostly selling their digital products, asking how I did it. And I was not confident to be like, yeah, this is my method. I was like, I can look at your account and play around with it. And so I got my first social media management clients. And then within 6 months, and that this was not planned, I was booked out. I lost my job due to COVID, but thank God I had this set up because I actually doubled my income as doing social media management than I was as a teacher. And then at that point, very naturally, people started asking me, well, how are you getting so many freelance clients? And here I am. I'm a marketing coach now. I primarily help freelancers, done for you service providers, and coaches sign clients through social media, not having to go through Fiverr or Upwork, which they still may find clients there, but most of their clients come from their marketing and just building a personal brand in the online space. So that's like my backstory. I've gotten way more into storytelling and content in the last year or so because when I transitioned from being a done for you service provider to a coach, I was not prepared for how different marketing has to be. When you're doing done for you service, it's very simple. You're like, this is what I'm going to do for you. And these are the results that you could get. When you're doing coaching, it's like, well, I can teach you this and you have to take action. And like, there's mindset involved and there's all these other things involved. So I really wasn't prepared for that. And I had a couple of launches that just did not take off. I would market it for 3 months and nothing was happening. And I had a lot of comparisonitis that I was struggling with, looking at other people's marketing and thinking, well, my marketing's just as good as hers. Why is she taking off and not me? And I really had to like put the blinders on, stop consuming other people's content, get really confident with my own skills and the stuff that the accomplishments I've helped my clients get, and just like go balls to the walls. Like, I'm going to be 100% confident about myself. I'm going to sell this offer. I'm going to be really narrowed in on, what I'm good at. And that as soon as I started to switch that in my marketing, that's when everything started to take off. So I'm super excited to talk to you and your audience today about like finding yourself in your marketing, storytelling, and, if you really want to turn your passions into a profitable business.
Yeah, I love that. We have like a kind of similar story too, where like I started as a blogger, kind of like how you were doing like Teachers Pay Teachers and things like that, and
Yeah.
then transitioned into helping other people do it too. And I feel like that's such a common story, like once you master something, being able to teach it to other people and help them along the way too. I actually had a client for a while who she was a Teachers Paid Teachers
Oh, yeah.
person, and then she was like also helping other teachers learn, so she was doing something very similar and it was very lucrative for her. So um but one of the things that I've noticed, one of my favorite things that you talk about in your content and when you're teaching people how to create their own content to bring in their ideal audience, their ideal client, is treating your ideal client like the main character. And I
Yeah.
love this. I want to talk about this because I think that when we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we see a lot of like day in the life, a lot of people sharing their own personal story, which is obviously like a huge component, but not a lot with this idea that like your client is the main character and not you. So, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that I've been playing around with for about a year now. And I realized this. Well, first of all, when you're doing advertising and marketing, if you think about a big brand where you're talking about like Subaru, for example, this is like my favorite example. If you are watching a Subaru commercial, there's like a family, there's a dog, they're going on adventures, and the car is there, right? Like the product is there, but the commercial is making you feel like you can go on adventures, you can have this amazing family experience, you can go where no one's gone before, you can go like on these remote camping trips, all because of this vehicle. And the car might like show you that they have strong tires. It might show you that it has high clearance, but they're not saying like this is the car and it has this tire and this feature and this feature and this feature. They're telling you a story that's making you feel like anything is possible with this car. So essentially, we're taking that same concept and we're putting it into our own social media, because every single content that you're posting ultimately is for a reason. You want to gain followers, you want to sell your offer, you want to, sell your digital products, whatever it is. And you only do that by making your audience feel like this is going to change their life in some way. So when you take yourself and you put yourself in the leadership position, like I have gotten these results, I am the expert here, and you position your content to surround your dream client or your audience as the main character, you're basically saying like, I see you right now, you're feeling this way right now, you desire this, you're taking these actions, and these are the steps that you need to take to get to your dreams. But everything is about them, right? Like I might say one line that like I have this experience, I might say like I've had 6 years in the online space or whatever, and this is my experience, but most of it is tailored to helping the person. And I think it's because I was a teacher, so it's like I picture every single post as if it's like a mini lesson, and I'm talking to my class or I'm talking to one client, and I'm telling you specifically, this is what you need to do. I see you right now, you're experiencing this. Here are the steps that you take, and here's how you're going to get those results that you desire.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that like this whole idea fills a lot of gaps for people, because I think a lot of times we've heard about having like an ideal client, or that we should map out who we're talking to, but then it's like, okay, maybe I know who I'm talking to, but how do I then actually like translate that into my
Yeah.
content? And I feel like this mindset shift is really helpful for that.
For sure. We take going beyond the ideal client. I think most people think of the ideal client avatar and you have like a name for her or them. And you like, they're in their 20s to 30s, they're moms, they're teachers, that's the old school marketing that I definitely used when I was starting my very first business. Like I knew that they were homeschool families and that they wanted to have their kids outside of nature more, but that's basically it. I didn't really know like the current experiences that we're having. I didn't really know like problems that they were coming into. And same when I started transitioning into doing done for you social media management, I was like, I know they're teacherpreneurs, they're teacher entrepreneurs. I know they're doing this as a side hustle, and that's about it. Like I didn't know anything more. But what's really going to help you detach from the outcome, like it doesn't matter if I get 300 views now. Like I just know that this is part of the game. Like, oh, interesting, my audience didn't like that. Let's change this. But it really helps you detach from that, because it's not about you. It's about your audience. So if they didn't resonate with something, that's something that we can go back to your messaging document and figure out, okay, maybe if we tweak this wording, maybe if we focus on this action that they're currently taking. So for example, when I say action, this is like all the messaging work that I do with my clients is we'll go in and say like right now, what does their typical day look like? Are they, because I work with so many content creators, are they posting 3 times a day, and then they're like checking their notifications obsessively hoping that one of those videos went viral, only to get disappointed that nothing really happened, they're still stuck in the 200 view club? Okay, let's use that as like a story point. Let's use that as the point of story that's going to position them as the main character, and let's help them lead out towards their dreams.
Yeah, I love that too, because I feel like I know for me all the time, I can look at other people's content and I can be like, oh, I can totally see the gaps here. But then when you have to do it for yourself, you just come up with your own content. You're so attached to it. You're so precious about it. And that ends up actually making your content worse. And so, like you're
Yeah.
talking about being able to detach from making it all about you can have such a huge impact on the quality of your content, and also like how effectively it converts people to sales and to leads, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
because if you think about it as a teacher point of view, like not everyone's teachers, I understand that. But let's say you said your audience are mostly moms. Let's say you're trying to teach your toddler something new and you say it to them and they're just like blank face. They don't understand it. You're not going to be offended, right? That they don't understand it. You're like, oh, interesting. I have to reword this. I have to maybe provide a visual. I have to figure out how to get it to so they can understand like what I'm trying to teach them. And then once they get it, you're like, yes, they got it, right? But it's the same with our content. When we make it all about ourselves and we're trying to prove that we're an expert or we're trying to prove that our lifestyle is amazing, if you're an influencer, when you don't get the views, when you don't get the comments or likes or followers, we then internalize that and think, oh, well, my lifestyle isn't that awesome. People don't care about what I'm doing. Maybe they think I'm not an expert. And we kind of double down on like, okay, more influencer content, more expert content, which all that's doing is digging you into a hole. And instead, you just need to reframe and go, oh, wait, my audience didn't really resonate with this. How can I reframe that and show them what I know, show them my lifestyle in a different way?
yeah, I totally feel that because I've definitely gone through those phases where I feel like I have to like prove what I know, that I have to be like the
Yeah.
expert. And that honestly like always flops and it doesn't feel fun or exciting to make either.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And you think like, oh, why don't people understand? Like I'm giving them so much value, but when you actually look at it, you're not giving them value. You're just being like, look at me, I'm the best. This is my method. Even if that wasn't your intention, that's what it comes off as.
Yeah, totally. And like, um, I totally have been there too, where like when I'm figuring out what kind of content to create and how to teach it, I also a lot of times will like jump to like step 10 instead of focusing on like steps 1 through 3
Yeah.
first. Like when I first started creating content, I was creating a lot of content about like sales funnels, but like my followers didn't even understand what like an email list was. So it's like back up,
Right.
and understand that like people are also at different places and understanding like where they're at in their journey. Like you were saying, like what their day looks like, what they're actually dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and how you can help them with those things is such a game changer.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes we think we have to skip to step 10 to prove ourselves or to make us look like the expert. But meanwhile, it's just going right over your audience's head. Like you said, they don't even know what an email list is. So, what would they know about the sales funnel? I always tell my clients, tell the page, not the chapter. So, we really zoom in on one specific thing and go deep into that. So, how do we even start with like a lead magnet? What even is a lead magnet? Like going really deep into that. How do you promote your lead magnet? Where do you host it? Like people will find so much value when you just zoom in on the page, zoom in on the one specific thing that you're trying to get across. And that's going to show, even if it's super basic, that's going to show your expertise way more than skipping steps.
Yeah, and like this also, so before we got on the call, I was talking to you a little bit about how I have so many people that I'm friends with who follow me, who I follow, who are like influencers doing like affiliate marketing, stuff like that. But I see so much potential in them to create their own products, to create their own coaching packages, all of these things. And yet, so many people are like, well, I don't know what I could create. I feel like I'm not an expert. But what you're saying here is that like there are all these little things that for you, might seem obvious, right? Or you are at a point where you have a certain level of expertise and you assume that everybody else knows the things that you do. It's kind of like, I don't remember, there's an actual name for it where people really who are not experts, who really don't know anything about a subject, always overestimate what they know. But the people who are
Yeah.
actually experts, like, know so much and understand that they still have so much to learn that they underestimate their value and underestimate what they can teach or how they can help other people. Like if you're a mom, like it might seem like, well, I don't know what I would teach other people, but yet you're managing a household. Like you know how to budget, you know how to meal plan, you're a teacher, you know how to create like all these super fun like activities for kids. You know what I mean? That for other people seems really difficult to do. And so I don't know,
Yeah.
I kind of rambled there for a second, but I don't
No,
know
it
if
was
you have any
good.
thoughts on that.
Yeah, and even with the clients that I work with, sometimes they create this offer that they think is going to be good. Like, talking about sales funnels, for example. And they like are like, well, everyone else is talking about sales funnels, so I should talk about sales funnels because I know this thing. But then there's like some kind of block that they have when they go to sell it, where maybe they're not showing up, they're not selling it, they're not talking about it. And when we dig deeper into that, usually it's because it's not something that it's like a natural talent. It's not something that they are super lit up about. It's not something that they embody. So I have this one client, for example, she was doing basically helping her audience create a program or create a membership to sell their like creative hobby, like arts and crafts stuff into a course or membership. And she was like, I want to do the whole process. We like built out this entire program. And then she realized that she really gets fired up about just email marketing. So nurturing your community through email marketing. And if I were to say email marketing is dead, she would literally get so fired up and fight me for it for like 30 minutes. And I'm like, that is what you need to work on. Right. So if you think other people are talking about digital marketing and like, being an influencer, making brand deals, if you think that's going to be the thing that's going to be successful, but it doesn't fire you up. If someone said this is dead, if someone said like, this is a scam or whatever, and you're not like, no, and like ready to fight, then that's not going to be the most lucrative offer that you can have.
Yeah, well, that's interesting too, because there's a lot of like different perspectives and debates on when you're either getting a niche or you're creating a course or a program or whatever. Like, do you go with what you're passionate about, or do you go with like what logically makes sense? And I mean, you can tell me what you think, but for me, I always encourage people to go with what they're passionate about, which sounds like what you're saying, because it's hard to stick with things. It's hard to sell
Yeah.
things. There's a lot of ups and downs. And unless you really, really care about it, you're probably going to just like throw the towel in, right?
Yeah, for sure. I would say there's a mixture. So if you already have an audience created, let's say you have a TikTok account and you have a good following there and they're engaging, or you have an Instagram account, there's already proof of concept that they like something that you're doing. So I would look at, what they like most about your content and then start pulling ideas from that. And most likely it's going to be the thing you're most passionate about anyways, because your energy just shows. But you can also ask your audience like, hey, I'm thinking about doing these three things. Which one would light you up most? And that is market research to help you solidify your idea. But again, the thing that you're most passionate about is most likely also going to be the thing your audience is most passionate about because they love you for your passions. And that's going to be the thing that's going to sell out the most.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. I know that like for me, even though I say you should do what you're passionate about, I definitely have this tendency to like go with what looks good on paper, you know,
Yeah.
or come up with an idea that I'm like, oh, I could do this without ever like consulting my audience and then being like, wait, why don't you want this?
Yeah, I was guilty of that as well. It's been a learning process. And once you realize like your audience is literally telling you what they want from you, it gets so much easier to sell it to them because now it doesn't feel sleazy. You know that they want this. So you're just inviting them in. And if they say no, they say no, but there's some want there because they told you they want it.
Okay, so then the next step though that I was just thinking about is like, let's say that
Yeah.
I know that my audience wants something from me, but sometimes the hardest part is just like actually doing it because you procrastinate or you're not sure that, or like you don't believe in yourself that you're gonna be able to deliver, right? And that's that whole like mindset piece that I think you talked about like briefly before. So like if you're working with your clients and they're like, okay, I have this idea, but I'm afraid, like what is something that people can do to like get past that hurdle?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I would usually go into like what's the fear that's popping up, and usually I will work through limiting beliefs of like, oh, I'm not good enough or I don't know enough, and we'll go in and find evidence that proves that wrong basically. But honestly, I'm kind of chaotic when it goes to launching new things. This literally happened last night. I've been working on this new program for like a month now, but in my head, behind the scenes. And I just announced it to the people that are in one of my programs. And someone was like, can you send me the details? And I was telling my fiance, Richard, I was like, oh my God, someone's interested in the details, but I don't have a sales page yet. And he's like, well, are you going to make it? It was like 11:30 at night. I was like, yeah, okay. So putting it out there before you even start the process of creating it is going to light that fire under your butt. Because if you start putting out the idea, selling it before you have the thing created, then that like makes it, you have an obligation. Like there's literally no way you cannot procrastinate because there's now someone relying. It might be an ADHD thing, like body dumpling, because now you have someone who's relying on you to follow through. So I actually really encourage people, if they're going to create a course or a program, to not create the modules, to not create the materials until they have people inside of it, because things change so much. Like you'll be doing the launch and you realize that people actually want this topic instead, so you'll tweak the messaging there, or people will, yeah, I like, for example, my last program, I added in an extra module, and that would have never happened if I already created out everything, you know? So I'm very fluid and going with the motions, you know, just going with the flow. But I know, I understand that doesn't work for everybody. I would say the biggest thing is to address the fear that's coming up first and figure out where that's coming from. And you can use your audience to validate you, right?
Yeah. I know that like I've had so many times where I've launched something and it is like um it's it is scary because you don't know like if people are going to buy and you invest all this time. And so what you're saying with like definitely like pre-selling things and getting
Yeah.
people bought in and even like paid before you start creating it is so good for your mental health too, because then you go into it like way more confident. And also, like you said, knowing what they actually want, because like we were saying before, that when you're the expert, sometimes you forget about the things that you needed to learn when you first started, and having people like go through the process of creating it with you, like your audience, um, that helps a ton, I think, for sure.
And you could test the waters and release something for free, release like a tiny little portion of whatever you want to create for like a test run. And if you get people who sign up and are excited for it, one, that's proof that they will buy your bigger thing. But two, you also now have a handful of people who are most likely going to go into your bigger thing. And so you already have a warm audience there that you can upsell them into your program. And it's free. It's like good practice. And the more you sell, the easier it gets. I know people say that all the time, but it's literally true.
Yeah, definitely. Um, well, I'm honestly like so I could go on about this for so long because I feel like I could just pick your brain for like my own stuff that I want to launch, because no matter how long you've been doing this, I feel like when it's your own stuff, it's so helpful to get like that outside help.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you can share like what are you offering right now, and like how can people work with you?
Oh, well, you put me on the spot because I literally haven't shared this with anyone except for the people in
Ooh.
this program. So you get behind the scene look, but I am in the process of opening up the doors to Force of Nature, which is a 3-month mastermind specifically for people who want to take their business to the next level. So this is for people who want to get better at content creation. We'll dive into the main character messaging formula with not just your content, but sales content as well. And we'll go into launching your offer, creating the offer, making sure it's like a scalable offer and not something that's going to just cap your income, and working on that leadership and confidence to just put yourself out there and show up like you're amazing. I know I talk about your audience is the main character, but you still have to believe in yourself. So that is launching very shortly. If you want the details, send me a DM on Instagram. That's probably the best place to find it.
Okay, cool. And what's your I mean, I'll put the link in too, but
Yeah.
where can we find you on Instagram?
Yeah, so and I have two Instagrams. I like literally have looked forever to figure out how to shut down my Instagram account, and I cannot figure it out. So my new Instagram account is at hannah.e.plourde. It's just my name, and that's where you can find me. And then my TikTok is the same as well, but I'm more active on Instagram.
Okay, awesome. Wait, this is a whole side tangent. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I just remember I saw something from you where you were like doing a new TikTok experiment. Are you still doing
Yeah.
that? Do you want
Yeah,
to tell
it's
me
not
about
going
that?
well.
Oh,
No, we could talk about it. It's great.
that's okay. Well, I can cut this part out, but I'm just interested.
No, it's a good story. This is,
Okay.
I do everything for the story. So, yeah, I started a new TikTok account because I had this theory that, well, my old one, I had flip flopped so many times when I was like figuring out who I wanted to be as a coach. And I like went from helping virtual assistants to helping all entrepreneurs service provider entrepreneurs. Then I went into like more mindset stuff, and then I like flip flop back into doing social media. And I just had this theory that because I flip flop so much, and this might just be a limiting belief, my stuff wasn't getting shown to more people, because I would see my likes go up, I would see saves go up, I would see more comments, but my views stayed the same, even though my videos were like 100 times better than my old videos. So I was like, why not start a new account and do this challenge, because it's all interconnected with Instagram. In April, I did a Reels challenge just privately for myself, where I posted a Reel for 30 days straight. And the results blew me away. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do that again. I invited my community into it. So I'm running that challenge with them. But I'm also going to post it on a new TikTok account and just see what happens. And the challenge itself was, I was like, I want to get 20K followers on Instagram in 30 days. And I think the funniest part is that I've lost followers on Instagram, which I know is like, as a marketer, it really doesn't matter. But I've been doing this thing where I'm like, I'm posting every single day. These are the reels that I'm posting, and I'm sharing my progress. And I'm like, but I've lost followers. So that's the failure, but it's going fine. The new TikTok account is actually doing better than my old one, which is exactly what I was expecting.
Oh, the new TikTok account's doing better.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I've like considered that a lot, like starting a new TikTok account and doing who knows what, because I'm always up to try new things. In like February, I think it was, I challenged myself to get to like 10,000 followers in a month on TikTok. That did not happen. I'm still not at
Yeah.
10,000 followers on TikTok, but I like learned a lot from that because I got really like specific about tracking things, and I
Nice.
definitely feel like I learned a lot from it, but I'm always up for experiments like that. So it's cool to hear that other folks are doing that too.
That's the only thing that keeps things fun for me. TikTok has been a source of frustration, like happiness and frustration. Like I've signed clients from there, I've made amazing connections, you, for example, but it also just is like constantly sucking energy out of me. And I love Instagram so much. That's where I built my entire business, and it's like so special to me. But I know that it's like this wealth of opportunity on TikTok. And I always say to my clients, the thing you're resisting most is the thing you need to focus on. And then I like, shy away
Yeah.
from it, like, oh, I'm not getting the results I expected. So for a while I was like, do I just give up on TikTok and put all of my energy into Instagram and like double down there? And then this was kind of like the last, I'm gonna go all in and restart, just see what happens. We'll see. Keep it fun, keep it light. I reduced the number of times I'm posting to 1 time a day. I'm, sticking to this challenge. So I'm kind of like using it as a personal diary to track what's happening on Instagram. But already I'm trying to seep back into of what I want to talk about, main character messaging, content and all that. So I'm like kind of flip flopping, and I'm excited for the challenge to be over, honestly, so I can kind of like unleash my creativity there. But it's been going pretty well. If you want to restart your TikTok, I recommend it.
I love that idea though too, like that sometimes restricting yourself for a while can then lead to this like flourishing of creativity.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like that
I
all the
didn't
time with myself. Yeah.
It's so interesting because you restrict it because you think, okay, this is going to be easier to track, right? Like the only thing you have to do is show up and talk about this challenge that you're doing. But then you go to do that and you're like, oh, but I want to talk about this and this and this. You think it'd be easier, but then it ends up being more difficult.
Well, that is partly like the ADHD thing too, because like whatever we're told we should do, we don't want to do that. We want to do the
True.
opposite, right?
I did that to
That's
myself, I guess.
but yeah, I feel the opposite too, because like I am I like TikTok and I Instagram. I go through phases where I like it, but I just can't like get into Instagram for some reason. It just feels like something is blocked there for me. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll
I
see what
like
happens.
Instagram because you can go deeper into things. Like you can have your reel, but then you can also have a whole caption, and there's the stories and everything. I really love Instagram stories better than TikTok stories. But yeah, I love TikTok for viewing. Like I don't go on Instagram at all for pleasure. I just go on it for business, but something about it, I want to love it. I do.
Yeah. Well, I think on TikTok, I'm really like pivoting myself a little bit to be like more like a bit more of an influencer angle, right? Like I
I
just
like that.
started TikTok shop, so I'm gonna be like doing some amount of sharing that kind of stuff, but still like continuing what I'm doing, but just like adding in a little bit more of like influencer angles. And then I'm reviving my old blog from
Yeah, I've been
10
following
years
that.
ago.
So cool.
And so I'm gonna be starting a new TikTok for that. Well, it technically exists, but I never post on it. So I'm gonna be
Yeah,
doing that. So that'll be a fun experiment to see how that goes.
cool. Yeah,
And my
I'll definitely
theory
follow you.
also that like I think a lot of times it's actually harder to go viral and to build an audience around business stuff. I know lots of people do it, but it's just a smaller like audience that you're targeting versus
Yeah.
like moms. You know what I mean? Like it's just like a smaller niche. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if like the mom niche like busts out.
Yeah, it'll be a fun experiment. Can't wait to
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yay. Well, thank you for being here. This has been
Yeah, thank you
fun.
for having me. I'm so glad we got to be face to face finally.
I know. It's so weird like on social media, especially with so much video now where like you feel like you know somebody even though you don't know
Yeah,
somebody. The parasocial relationship.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, cool.
Cool. Well, thank you, and I will see you around.
Yeah, let me know when this episode drops and I'll share it to my community.
Okay, cool, definitely. Sometime in the next couple weeks, I gotta like get to editing. I've been procrastinating editing, but in the next couple weeks.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much,
Cool.
Morgan.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.